I have sent you a
Sir,
message.
it would be live streamed also,
Okay.
but you and the participants both will have an opportunity to interact. So maybe the questions can be taken up later on
Yes, yes.
and they can participate then.
Shall we start?
Yes, I think I'll just ask Dr. Aarti to take over from here. Dr. Aarti? Sanchit, you will have to give access to Aarti to unmute herself.
Hello everyone. Am I audible, Parul?
Yes.
Thank you, Parul. So, a very good afternoon to one and all present here for the live session. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our resource person, Dr. C.S. Sharma sir, for today's session, who is going to provide us an insight on ancient Indian wisdom and management aspect. So let me introduce to you about sir first of all. Sir is a distinguished educator with broad experience in India and overseas in teaching, program development, including enriched digital content, institution building, financial performance, and business development. He has been the author of 11 books and 41 research papers. Sir has acted in a consultative capacity to corporations, renowned institutions of higher learning, and is a sought-after speaker, notably in research methodology, human behavior, and finance. Formerly teaching at Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, Sir was also director of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies and JRE Group of Institutions. Sir has conducted numerous workshops and training programs at institutions like Punjab Police Academy, Ramanujan College, DU, NHPC, TIS Mumbai, CPDHE Delhi University, Academic Staff Council, MDU Rohtak, Manav Rachna University, National Academy for Training and Research in Social Security, Government of India, to name a few. So we are privileged to have you here with us, sir. Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir, now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. A little change. I am currently Dean Academics at Indian School of Business Finance, University of London, and London School of Economics, right? And the number of research papers are now 47. I think you have a little old introduction with you.
Yes.
Anyway, it's fine. It's just okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aarti. Let me proceed.
Yes.
We are all from the area of commerce and management. And an important thing about commerce and management is that this particular area has evolved as a discipline as we see it today, in the form in which we are seeing it today. It has evolved in the West, more particularly in the United States, because the research force has come only from there. We know that as far as management as a discipline is concerned, it was Frederick W. Taylor that we consider him as as father, or Fail for that matter. And their books have been the leading lights, and whatever research took place, whatever schools of thought in the discipline of management that have developed, they all have developed there, whether it was the humanist school, structuralist school, or situational school. These strands of thinking have emerged only in the Western countries. Now, the thing is that we have been teaching We have been teaching the concepts which have developed in the West. And we do not have our own system of teaching. Teaching management, what actually is management? If we look at it this way, let's not go into the definitional aspect. As far as management is concerned, it is concerned with essentially with managing people. Even when we talk of managing finance, managing accounting, or operations for that matter, or the decision-making aspect, here we are all concerned with nothing but human beings. And human beings are product of a culture. Human beings are product of a value system. We all have some background, we all have some goals, we all have a certain belief system, and we are very passionate about our belief system. And it is this that defines us. And we are teaching with the help of the concepts and theories developed in a land which is very foreign to us. The belief system of the West is very different from the belief system that exists in India. The way we think as Indians is very different from the way Westerners think. Their frame of reference is entirely different. So, how can we think about it? Now, first of all, why there is a need that we look at the ancient Indian wisdom or ancient Indian thinking for the purposes of developing management theories which are relevant to us. One answer is very simple. And that answer is, we belong to India and we deal with Indians in India, and therefore our theories, our education, our research should be rooted in what India stands for, or what is in the air of India, what we breathe, and accordingly it should be done. That is a very simple answer. But there is another aspect of this, my dear friends, and that I always talk about. You know, as far as the West is concerned, as far as the Western civilization is concerned, the Western civilization is essentially and basically a consuming, absorbing kind of civilization. How do I say this? Wherever these, as we see the Western civilization as it developed post-Greek civilization, it has consumed completely the originally existing traditional civilizations. It went to United States, for example, and when these people went from England to United States, what did they do? They took up the ideas, thoughts of the natives of United States of America, who they call Indians. But the Indians per se were completely obliterated. Similarly, in Europe, the Western civilization, when it had arrived there, the previously existing civilization was completely obliterated, though their ideas were consumed by them. In England, for example, there used to be Druids, but now nobody even knows about the Druids as they existed at that time. So thing is that they stole ideas from these civilizations. The same thing is happening even today. Now I'll give you a few examples. There is a concept going on in the West these days, and very popular. If you Google it, you'll find it. It is very popular there. It is known as lucid dreaming. Now, this concept, lucid dreaming, is nothing but Yog Nidra. The person came to India, he learned Yog Nidra here, he immersed himself completely into it. But from here, when he went back, he then remodeled it, gave it a very different name called lucid dreaming, very attractive name. And that is now being served to us Indians also. And when we talk to them, and another example, I'll come to that, those conversations later. Another one. There is a person, Dr. Herbenson of Harvard University. You know, he learned transcendental meditation from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. All right. And then he remodeled it. And he named it Relaxation Response. That became the idea. And he started selling it as Relaxation Response. He got a patent. And after that, he started conducting workshops and so on. Third one more name I would like to give you. You know, if you talk of doing research in the field of spirituality, you think of the spirituality, it's a very popular theme these days. Spirituality in marketing, spirituality in management, and so on. This has become a very important dimension to be added in different aspects of social sciences, including management. You know, if you do that, then you will come across the word mindfulness. The maximum research papers that you will come across, those will be on mindfulness. And this mindfulness was developed by a person called John, Jon, John Kabat, K-A-B-A-T, John Kabat, something is his name. And this mindfulness was developed by him at Massachusetts. And this fellow, actually, this mindfulness, if you go into the details, you'll find it is nothing but a very simple thing. It was Vipassana. It is Vipassana. Vipassana developed by Goenka here in India. And it is being presented to the whole world like that. Then in early 80s, the concept of multiple intelligence was presented by Harold Gardner. Now, this concept of multiple intelligence that was presented, it was nothing but an idea that was picked up from the works of Sri Aurobindo. Because Aurobindo says that there are different planes of a being, different parts of a being. And those things were completely adapted as multiple intelligences. Like we have intelligence, music intelligence, mathematical intelligence, and so on. There are a large number of intelligences that have been presented. And not merely this, my dear friends. It is just not enough. I would like to say that, for example, even the famous philosophers of the West, like Immanuel Kant, like Hegel, like William James, these people borrowed from the Indian thought, from Vedic thought, to what is given in Upanishads. And they never even acknowledged that. Like, William James was a person who worked with Swami Vivekananda, who was the one who organized his visit to Chicago, famous visit. And this William James is considered as pioneer of psychology. Now, he has incorporated a lot of ideas in that here, but there is absolutely no mention, not even an acknowledgement of where the ideas were borrowed from. None of these Westerners have done it. And not only that, they are not mentioning it, but after absorbing everything from us, from our land, from our wisdom, these people criticize us in different ways. So, Now the time has come. It is very necessary, dear friends, that our scholars, we start building up our own theories based on our own wisdom, based on our own knowledge that we have, ancient knowledge. And there is sufficient amount of basis for us. Now here, let us understand one thing. I'm using the word here, and the word here is that I've used is ancient Indian wisdom. What is wisdom? And how do we reach there? In fact, my dear friends, if we look at knowledge, word knowledge per se, there are different levels of it. I very often say this. Now, the first and the basic level of knowledge is, we will call it simple facts. And these facts, there is no interpretation. It is just a statement. In philosophy, they call such a statements as analytic statements, where the definition of the subject is predicated within the sentence, which is a fact. So either it will be a number. Just say in philosophy, we say, I make a statement like, I say a statement, a doe is a deer. Now, doe is a deer. Now, deer is predicated in the definition of, the definition of doe is predicated in deer, and deer is predicated in doe. So it is just a fact. You can't challenge it. This is a television. It is a fact. Numerical expression of the information, of the data. These are facts. Facts are simple statements. Okay? And they are unchallengeable truths, because they are presenting what appears to the five senses. So first level is what we call fact. And when these facts are organized, we give them a form. We create a pattern out of the facts. Then that becomes information. If I say metaphorically, then we would say that when the facts are given a formation, then the facts become information. Right? And when information is interpreted, that becomes knowledge. Now, a fact is what is available, it is unchallengeable. For example, we say there exists a tree. There exist 25 trees. The population of the country is, say, 2 crores. Now, this is a fact which is unchallengeable. But if we create patterns out of the available information, that will be available fact. If the facts which are available, if we start giving them a formation, we start discerning certain patterns out of that would become information. And once we start interpreting that information for a goal, for a certain objective, then it becomes knowledge. And when knowledge is enlightened, when it leads to auspiciousness, it leads to liberation, it leads to joy and happiness for all without discrimination, then it becomes wisdom. So these are the 4 levels at which we have to operate: fact, information, knowledge, and eventually the wisdom. And what do we really mean by wisdom? You see, again, now we go to the ancient Indian wisdom. So they say here in Bhagavad Gita, for example, chapter 9, first shlok, that states the Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yat Gyatva Mokshasi Shubhat. Now, what does it mean? Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Sahitam means with. So, Jnana with Vijnana. Yat Gyatva, which if you know, Mokshase Shubhat. You get Shubh and you get Moksh. And what is Shubh? Shubh is auspiciousness. And what is Moksh? Moksh is enlightenment. You get light, liberation. So, knowledge without wisdom, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. Knowledge has to be with wisdom, only then it will lead to liberation. Only then it will lead to auspiciousness for all. So here, what does it mean? Liberation means what? Liberation actually is subjugation of self-aggrandizement, self-promotion, self-imposition. That your knowledge is not for the purposes of your own wellness only. It is not for your own aggrandizement. It is for the subjugation, for reducing your desire to dominate. And it is for the good of all. So this is the basic thing. We start with this particular idea, my dear friends, that the management theory that we think of developing, evolving, building, that management theory has, if it has to utilize the wisdom, then this has to be then oriented towards two things. It has to be for the auspiciousness, for the shubh of all the stakeholders, whether they are shareholders, or they are the board of directors, or they are the employees, or they are the customers. Now, one may think, and of course, it is not for the aggrandizement. It is not for the expansion. It is not for the domination, which does not mean lack of competition. It means, what it means is that it has to be for the greater good of all, my dear friends. Now, the idea is, basic idea here is this, that when wisdom has to be evolved and developed with the two goals, as I said, subjugation of the self-aggrandizement on one hand, and second thing, as I said just now, the auspiciousness of all stakeholders, then what is the most important thing here? Most important thing here is understanding the mind, understanding the self. If we understand our own self, then we understand the whole world better. And why understanding self is important? Understanding self is important for one reason. And the reason is, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita somewhere, I think it is in chapter 12, I don't remember the shlok number. The statement is that mano matram jagat, mano kalpitam jagat. Mano matram jagat. Man matram jagat. So now you understand the word man. Man means mind. Jagat means the world. And matram, it means world is as the mind sees it. Please see, world is as the mind sees it and feels it. The world, and again, mano kalpitam jagat. The way the mind imagines the world. The world appears to be the way the mind imagines it. The world appears to be the way the mind sees it. I'm not saying something new. This shlok is not saying anything new. It is pure common sense. But unfortunately, common sense is very uncommon. Now, thing is, therefore, the first and the foremost thing, about management is managing people. Managing people will come about when we are able to understand how the mind functions, or how should the mind be functioning at different levels, so that there is auspiciousness for all stakeholders on one hand, and there is second thing, as I said just now, subjugation of self-aggrandizement. And let me tell you one thing, the way, the manner in which the schools of management have developed, the way the thought on management has developed, is trying to accomplish the same thing even in the West also. For example, if you look at the way Taylor stated, Taylor said that there has to be a mental revolution. You all are professors of management and commerce. I'm sure you know about this already. I'm not saying anything new. He talked of mental revolution. And what was the mental revolution? Mental revolution was only one thing, that everybody is motivated by money. That is what he said. And he said there is a best way of doing a particular task. So everybody should work as per the time studies and motion studies, so that the profit is maximized, because money is the main motivator. Now, thing is that mano matram jagat, the his mind saw the world as being driven by money. That's it. His mind saw that the world is, the money will be best made when resources, human resources, are utilized to the maximum. That is why I said it. But this theory was completely demolished by the later studies, which we call the studies conducted by Roethlisberger. Somebody has raised the hand. I think I will take the questions in the end. Kindly note it. I think this is all right, Dr. Parul?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We can take the questions in the end.
Somebody raised the hand, so I just saw it. Anyway, so my dear friends, the basic idea is how the mind has to operate. Now, I'll come to this idea. I would not go into the details of this particular aspect, but I just want to say this, that the ideas that are being floated, or that have been floated, the theories which have been floated, those ideas are already there with us. And what we need to do is that we start working in the direction of building up our own theories, our own thought processes, according to our own norms. Now, for example, let me take a few areas. Let me first take the example of, say, for example, area of leadership. Now, what is leadership all about? Look at the definition of leadership. Now, if you look at the definition of leadership, a number of definitions of leadership will come in front of you. It is an area of, it is the influence. It is followership. It is controlling people. It is motivating people. It is inspiring people. It is transforming people. These are some of the ideas that emerge. All right, these are the definitions that have been presented to us by the Western thinkers. I'm not saying they're wrong, but the idea of leadership already existed with us in a fantastic manner. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, shlok number 21, it is mentioned clearly, Yadyada charati shreshthastat deve taro jana. What it means? Very simple. The manner in which the Shrestha people function, the same way the people follow. Now, doing by example, you can interpret it as doing by example also. But leadership is that first you have to obtain a superior position. And once you obtain the superior position, then what you do, others will follow. The question is, how do you arrive at a superior position? Now you think about it. And we have an entirely different kind of a theory emerging. Will it be contextual or will it be categorical? Will the leadership, you obtain superiority as per the context, which becomes situational theory of leadership, or you will obtain, or it is just categorical, that you are superior because you are born superior, or you are just there, that is superior. So we go to the wisdom part, not for domination. Whatever knowledge has to be there, it is not for domination. It is for the auspiciousness of all. So right away, we reject the idea of categorical superiority. You are not, nobody is born superior. Superiority is contextual. When you have knowledge, yes, then knowledgeable people will be the leadership. When you require power, physical power, then people with stronger physical power will be the leader. When you are needing some other kind of a skill or some other resource, accordingly it will be there. So this is the kind of idea that we have already there. Now, if we had scholars who could build on this statement and create a theory of leadership, it would have been there. Another example I'll give you here. You know, these days, when we talk of leadership, we talk of highest form of leadership is the servant leadership. I'm sure many of you might have read about it. I have done considerable amount of research in the area of servant leadership. This idea of servant leadership came from a gentleman called Green, and he presented this idea way back in the year 1967. And later on, it was picked up much later, I would say, about 15, 20, 25 years back, 20 years back, to be more specific. It was picked up, and people started researching in the area of servant leadership. And what is a servant leadership? A leader who is a servant. Now, it looks like a very contradictory statement. How can you be a leader as well as be a servant? Now, this is the beauty of the whole concept. The concept says, just as a servant meets the aspirations of the master, so the leader should meet the aspirations of the employees, of the subordinates. And what he should have, what qualities should he have? He should have the quality of compassion, sensitivity, empathy. These are some of the spirituality. Being stable. He should be devoted. He should be self-controlled. And of course, he has to get the work done. Therefore, he should be determined. These are the wonderful things. Now, these very qualities that are stated to be, that are expected to be in a servant leader, the same qualities have been mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, and they are what they say very simply. They say, Adveshta sarva bhutanam, maitra karuna evacha, nirmamo nirahankara, sam dukh sukh kshami, santushta satatam yogi yatatma dra nischaya. Now, these are some of the words. Now, see the words that are adveshta, free from malice. Second word, he says, adveshta sarva bhutanam, towards all beings, the person should be without malice. Now, here, let's interpret it. If this is the quality that has to exist in a leader in an organization, then he has to be free from malice, no malice. And maitra, friendly, should be compassionate, karuna. Then that person should be stable. Sam, dukh, sukh, within in the happiness and joy, should be the same, which means what? An attitude of equanimity and kshami. The person should have the quality of kshama, forgiveness. And a lot of work is being, I have also done research in this area, forgiving organizations. And are forgiving organizations successful financially? We have worked on that. We have some publications. Me and my students have done considerable amount of research in that area. And there is a complete full-fledged model on the working of the forgiving leadership, apart from servant leadership. The quality of forgiveness is central to the working of an organization, and such organizations are successful. Large organizations or the units of those organizations where forgiving leadership is there. And interestingly, very interesting thing here, that I'll come back to servant leadership again. The latest research project that we are doing these days is this, that if a person has the feature of servant leadership, that is, the person is free from malice, he is friendly, he is compassionate, and what he has element of forgiveness in him. He is free from egoism, nirhankar, free from egoism, that he does not do a thing just to satisfy his own ego. Santushta, that person has to be satisfied. But at the same time, the person has to have Dridha Nishchay. This is mentioned in Slok 13 and 14, as I'm talking here right now. So, dear friends, with these qualities, one research question we threw up: if the person has this kind of research qualities, is there a possibility that he will be manipulated by the people who have higher degree of what we say machiavellianism? There is a personality trait called machiavellianism, cynicism, or these negative features. A person, if there is a leadership, the leader is following the style of servant leader, which is servant leadership is nothing, as I said just now, the leader is without malice. Leader has a lot of compassion. Leader has a lot of forgiveness. Leader has a lot of spirituality. The person has what you will say, he's free of egoism. He does not have distress. He does not feel distressed in the state of distress. He has what we will say steadiness. He's content. That these are the qualities that the person has. Now, we thought as researchers that is it possible that such a person can be manipulated, can be fooled, and can be taken advantage of? And interestingly, we used qualitative research method for this purpose. And our findings are very interesting. Our findings are that these people, although they are very compassionate, although they are very forgiving, although they are free of ego, although they are very detached, although they do not carry malice, although they want to fulfill the aspirations of their employees, although they keep the welfare of the employee first, these people are highly determined also at the same time. And they do not allow themselves to be manipulated. And when they are present there, then the deviant behavior, we call it uncivil behavior of the employees, gets significantly reduced. That is, they have a bigger influence on the work culture rather than the work culture, negative work culture having influence on them. Now, this is the kind of thing that these people have. What I'm trying to say here is, idea of servant leadership has come from a Westerner, but that idea already exists with us right here. And interestingly, one more thing. The feature of servant leadership is neither he feels feared nor he generates fear in others. Now, once again, in 12th chapter, 15th shlok, this very idea has been very clearly stated. They say there, the shlok says that Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chaya. Now, very interesting. That the person is neither feared by the people, nor does he allows others to generate fear in him. That is the kind of quality that the individual has or has to have to be a person who can be free, who can be called mukta, who could be called free. Now, the context may be anything, but the idea is there. So I just wanted to highlight this particular dimension, my dear friends, amongst you, that how we can build up on the theories which could be very fruitful for the purposes of managing people. Now here, one very important thing. There is another theory that has emerged. And what that theory is, the theory is that they call it factualness theory. And what is that factualness theory? Factualness theory is this, that we must understand the viewpoint of the other person. We must put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. In emotional intelligence, we call it empathy, my dear friends. And I would call it individual freedom. For example, what we do, we human beings have a very, very strange kind of quality. And that quality is that judging others. We pass judgment on the people every time we meet. And when we are talking also, and we're talking of human beings, we pass judgments. And we pass judgments on the basis of our belief system. And when we are in a position of authority, what we have observed is, please note, that the leaders define their success in terms of minimizing the deviation. Please notice, it is this. What is the success of the leadership? We had conducted a study. It was somewhere around 1995 that this study was conducted. And our sample was quite large. It was somewhere around, if I remember correctly, 736 was our sample all across India. And we wanted to know, what do the managers actually do? What do successful managers actually do? Now, see the thing. We defined here two things. Just see this. Successful managers actually do. Not what the theory says. Theories are what they should be doing. So we actually wanted to find what they actually do, the successful managers. So we defined success, we developed a coefficient of success. And the coefficient of success was the position level in the organization divided by the age. So level is 5 and age is 25. So coefficient will be 5 divided by 25. So which means 1 upon 5, which is equal to 0.2. Another person reaches level 5 at the age of 50. So the coefficient would be, we will say 5 divided by 50, which is 1 upon 10, which means 0.1. So higher the coefficient, higher the success. So this is how we define that or quantify it. Now, as for what do managers actually do, we developed a scale. And the scale was of 80 activities that the managers undertake. These activities would include even cutting a joke, even their gestures. And then the researcher, as researchers, we would take permission from our sampled manager. We would take permission from him saying that, sir, we want to spend, say, 30 minutes while you are working on the job. And we just want to observe. That's it. And please be natural. It was very difficult to find such persons, but we could find over a period of 3.5 years or so. That was the time that it took to collect the data. So the researcher, my team members would go to the manager's office at the time given by him. And we would just sit there. And as the person would talk, converse, speak to the people, do his work, we would tick those 80 activities, which activities this person has really indulged in. And then we gathered all the information, we then analyzed it. And interestingly, you know what was it that came as the most important activities? The most important activities that emerged were focused on, when we analyzed them in terms of groupings of the activities, the most important activity was to make the people do what the manager wanted them to do. Okay? And the second most important objective, the activity that emerged, was that they gave them freedom and autonomy to do what they wanted them to do. Now, this is the idea of what we will call the individual freedom. Now, the individual freedom is essentially embedded within the ancient Indian wisdom, my dear friends. As far as the wisdom which is rooted in this country, again for this I will take my reference of the Bhagavad Gita. Here, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita there are 18 chapters, and Krishna starts his dialogue in the second chapter. And he concludes it, second chapter, 11th shlok. And he concludes it in the end, in the 18th chapter, at 66th shlok. All right? Just before he concludes his discussion, his discourse, in 63rd shlok of 18th chapter, he makes a very interesting observation to Arjun, the person to whom he is giving the message. And you know what he says? It is a very interesting statement that he makes. He says, Itite jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya vimarsha etat visheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. Now see, it is very interesting. Let me translate it for you. He says, Itite jnanam akyatam. Iti means finished. Te means to you. Finished. To you, jnanam akyatam. Akyatam means to describe, to lecture. Jnanam, description. Jnana description is over. Itite jnanam akyatam. The description of knowledge is over, dear friend. And you see what he says after that? Guhyad guhyataram maya. It is deeper of the deep. See the choice of the words. I've given you the knowledge. That giving of the knowledge is over, and this knowledge is deeper of the deep. He doesn't say deepest. He says that that means there is still a scope. He does not finish it there. It is not cast. It means it is not the knowledge. It is not the final word. There is a still possibility of going deep, because it is deeper of the deep. So he says, Itite jnanam akyatam guhyad guhyataram maya. This is the knowledge that I have given to you, is the deeper of the deep. Vimarsha etat. Now he says, Vimarsha etat. Think of it. Think of it, Vimarsha. We know the word Vimarsh. Vimarsh means to go over, to think over. Etat means on this, Visheshena. Vishesh Rup se, especially think over this. And then he finally says, Yathe chasi tatha kuru. Yatha ichhasi. The way you think, the way you desire, do like that. Now see, he's given the entire message of different, in different ways. And finally, what does he say? The word is very simple. He concludes his discussion in 66th shlok, and just before concluding his message, in the 63rd shlok, he says that I have given you all the knowledge, my dear friend. The knowledge is deeper of the deep. I don't claim it to be final. And you have now think about this. And your individual freedom is there. You do the way you want to do it. This is actually the recognition of the fact that we human beings seek freedom. We seek autonomy. We want to achieve our own aspirations ourselves. This is basic to us. This particular aspect has been very greatly recognized in the ancient Indian wisdom. Freud calls it pleasure principle, but it is much beyond the pleasure principle of Freud. If you look at the Carl Jung's unconscious, I'm talking of individual unconscious, not the collective unconscious of Carl Jung. Even he talks about it. But this is even beyond that. One of the instincts, we have many instincts in us. We have desire for food, we have desire for sex, we have desire for, but there is desire for being autonomous. This is called Ishna. And therefore, we all have heard the idea of McGregor's theory X, theory Y, Herzberg's motivators, and what is the other one? You see, Maslow's need hierarchy. And Herzberg talks about the motivators, and the other set of needs are there, which are
Hygiene factors.
Hygiene factors or maintenance factors, as you call them.
Yeah.
All right. So what is more important is, they say the more important thing is higher level needs in the Maslow's hierarchy. What is more important is the motivators in the Herzberg's model. What is more important is the Y theory, or even the Japanese developed the Z theory. And here the focus is essentially on nothing but on higher level needs. And what is that? Challenge. What is that? Giving autonomy. Recognizes that kind of autonomy. And if we look at this very thing, autonomy to the people in the context of what we will call servant leadership, then one of the Indians who worked at Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, presented the theory of employee first and not the customer first. If employee is first, then customer will automatically be first. Now, this is what actually the ancient wisdom, Indian wisdom, is about. One more aspect I would like to mention here. The ancient Indian wisdom rests on a fundamental tenet, one fundamental tenet, and that tenet has been captured in the Ishopanishad. The very first mantra of Ishopanishad says, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhanjitha Ma Gradha Kasya Swanidharam. Now, what it actually means, that the ultimate power, the Ish, the divine power. if you want to call it, the Ishwar, if you say, that is in each and everything. That is one aspect of this. It does not belong to you. So use it only as much as you need it, because it does not belong to you. Now understand this particular aspect. You use it, use everything the way you want to use it, but not excessive use. Now, this particular shlok can be, or mantra as you call it, of Ishopanishad can be interpreted in very large number of ways. And people have given huge discourses and they've written long commentaries on this particular mantra. But I would put it in this way in the context of management or managing people, managing organizations. There are two things. Divinity is in everything, every being, living or non-living. Number one. Number two, it does not belong to us. Number three, that emerges out of it, use it with care. Use it as much as you need it. I would put it in a different way. I interpret it in this manner. As far as the nature is concerned, the nature, by its very character, gives us human beings more than it receives. For example, you sow a seed, say seed of, say mango tree. Once the tree blooms, it will give you fruit for about 30 years' time. And while you had sowed only one seed, it will give you large number of fruits every year, year after year, for 30 years. You sow one seed of wheat. What you get is a stem. And on the top of the stem is the fruit of that seed of wheat. And that would contain large number of wheat grains. You give one, you receive multiple. What we human beings do, just the other way around. We only suck. We accumulate. We collect. We receive more than we give. And nature gives more than it receives. So if we think that there is divinity in every human being, as Ishopanishad says, if we have to use only what is needed for us, it actually boils down to giving more than receiving. Now think of a business organization that gives more than it receives. And imagine a situation that all business organizations around follow this principle. Then perhaps, I think this problem of pollution, this problem of non-sustainability will be resolved immediately. Because every act that we do, that will be towards taking care of everybody else. We have to give more than we receive. Instead of accumulating more than what we are giving, instead of receiving more than what we are giving, this is what our modern economics actually teaches. Maximize utility, maximize profit, maximize consumer surplus, minimize cost. This is what the objective is. So it means what? Maximize your utility means what? You give less than what you receive. Maximize your consumer surplus. What does it mean? You receive more than what you are giving. And if you do that, then what are you? You are just a vampire. Vampire sucks the blood, as they say it. And we are sucking resources that every person on this planet is doing. And the more educated, more resourceful, more rich is the person, more sucking this person is doing. And this particular aspect is not part of our education. We do not teach anybody, we do not, in our curriculum, we do not teach why we are there. What is the purpose of life? We do not have any course which tells us about understanding who we really are, what is our self. We talk of a lot of things, but we do not talk about that. Anyway, that is not the subject, just like that I have stated. But the point, dear friends, is that this individual freedom, in terms of giving autonomy, and in terms of giving more than receiving, in terms of employee first, in terms of leader being a servant leader. These are some of the ideas which are very great. And then I would come to one more aspect. And that aspect relates to, let's call it ethics and morality. Can I continue for another 10 minutes time, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. The thing basically is another issue, another important issue that comes here is the issue relating to gender. It's a very important issue because now, world over, globally, women have entered the workforce everywhere, even if they have not entered the workforce again. But here, since we are talking about management and commerce, I'm going to talk only about the workforce. Women have entered. Now, how they should be looked at, how they should be perceived. Now, as far as the Western civilization is concerned, there are no specific statements about it. All right? The feminine gender has not been accorded the kind of divinity or the kind of status that should be given. Here in India, again, I'll come back to Bhagavad Gita. There it gives 7 characteristics to women. And what are those 7 characteristics? The characteristics are, women are essentially, they represent Priti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, Kshama. These are the 7 qualities that women are supposed to have, or women are supposed to represent. Now see the word Kriti, Kirti, I'm sorry, Kirti. Kirti means glory. Shri. Now what is Shri? Now Shri is, we say in Sanskrit, when we address somebody or a male is addressed, that the person, we add a word Shri in the beginning of the name. Like if you say Vinod Kumar, we say Shri Vinod Kumar. In Tamil Nadu, for example, they use equivalent amount. Tiru is the word that they use. Okay. Now here, Shri, what does it mean? Shri word is used for prosperity. And Shri word has also been used for that a person who has Shri is a person who has 4 qualities, 4 things with him. And what are those? Number 1, person should be wealthy if he's living in the world. Yes, Shri. There should be wealth. Number 2, the person should have status. That is, wealth should be properly acquired. It is not you're a dacoit or you're a smuggler or you're a thief and you've accumulated wealth. That person would not be given the status of possessing Shri. Third, the person must have a status. Which means, status means what? A position. A formally good position or informally good position. And fourth, the person must have an heir. One who can inherit. It's not male or female. It could be either. A person who possesses these 4 things would have Shri. And to women we say Shri Mati. Mati means Buddhi. a mind which can lead you to Shri. This is what Shri here means. That is what the status of women really is. Third is Vak, which means auspicious speech. Fourth is Smriti, which means memory. Fifth is Medha, talent. And sixth is Dhriti, ability to face difficulties. And finally, Kshama. Now, this is how the women gender is to be visualized. Now, if we visualize the women as these, that they represent the glory, they represent the ability to face difficulty, they represent the forgiveness, the talent, the auspicious speech, the prosperity and the mind that leads to prosperity, and Smriti, the memory, then the organizational structures should be modeled to meet the needs of women. We are talking about women empowerment. We are developing, there is a complete feminist school of thought also that has emerged over the years. But nobody talks about changing the nature of organizational structure. The organizational structures uniformly across the world continue to be what we say 9-to-5 jobs. During pandemic, we had work from home, but that norm is now being broken. We should have physical presence now. Everything has to be done with physical, and gradually you will see within a year or so, this work from home will vanish and we'll be back to 9-to-5. And 9-to-5 job was what? 9-to-5 jobs emerged because the organizations were male dominated. They would leave home at 8 a.m. They will carry their lunch with them prepared by the homemaker, be it their wife, be it their mother, be it their sister. And then they would work up to 5 o'clock in the evening. And they come back and the warm food is waiting for them, which has been prepared by the homemaker. But now the so-called homemaker of the past time is herself going to work. What about her needs? And when she delivers a baby, period before that and period after that, I know a large number of organizations ask these ladies to resign. Good number of them. And in certain businesses, there are women on record. They have said this. When they disclose their pregnancy to their bosses, the first thing that the boss say them, what about you coming back in shape? I saw it of a very famous journalist, very famous women journalist said this in her interview. And she's a TV journalist. She said, when I disclosed about my pregnancy, my boss said, when are you coming back in shape? He wasn't concerned about congratulating her. He wasn't concerned about how she was feeling, what leave she will require, how she was going to do the things. No. Why? Because we are not visualizing women as what ancient Indian wisdom really states about the women. So these are some of the thoughts, my dear friends, that I have. Only thing that I want to say here is one idea, that we need to go back to our own texts. These are the texts from where our ideas have been stolen. And those ideas have been presented back to us, repackaged in a different form. Indian intellectual class needs to rise up now. And Indian intellectual class to which you belong, to which you constitute as professors, lecturers, readers. You need to come up with new research and develop theories based on, get your ideas from here and create theories based on this. For example, there are large number of women who are listening to me. Only women are the organizers. Dr. Parul Yadav is here. Dr. Aarti Yadav is here. And I think there may be a few more women. The head of the department of Ramanujan College, Department of Management is also a woman. So all of you need to get together. Why don't you do research and develop models which are based on these dimensions of women and create models which will lead the managers, whether male or female, to function in the manner in which they should function so that the gender-related issues are appropriately addressed. In University of Delhi, for example, the principals who are women, they fail to address the needs of the women. I mean, I think you know about it. I need not talk about it much. Okay? So that is what the basic idea is. So essentially, when we talk of utilizing Indian ancient wisdom for the management purposes, then some of the ideas that I have presented here today, that understanding of the mind, understanding of the self, the leadership styles, the group norms, these all, the ideas relating to these can be extracted, can be discerned, can be delineated, can be obtained from the ancient Indian texts. And we can create our own theories which are more relevant to us. Because now this task, not from Rao only, from times immemorial, Westerners have been taking ideas from us, from our texts, and they have been packaging, repackaging them, and bringing those back to us, imposing those upon us as their own. So it is like, somebody comes to our house, takes our utensils, our money, our jewelry, our jewels, and takes them out blatantly and without making any acknowledgement, starts selling those back to us as their own. So I think that Indian academicians, young academicians like you, have this responsibility of creating a new body of language, a new body of knowledge for in the field of management and commerce, which is not only relevant to us, but which is based on what is already there in our ancient texts. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll be too willing to take them. Yeah. Yes. This is a thank you. Some books on applicability of ancient wisdom in the contemporary world. Yeah. This is Mr. Ishfaq Ahmed Thaku is the question. Sir, thank you for such a wonderful session. Could you suggest some books on applicability of Indian ancient wisdom in the contemporary world? Moreover, please apprise about how to approach while exploring ancient Indian texts. You see, read them. Very good question that has been asked by Mr. Ishfaq Ahmed Thaku. The answer I would like to address this question, it's a very practical question that he has asked. Pick up the text. And there is a field called hermeneutics. I would say that there is no need for you to go to the hermeneutics. You pick that up. And after picking up the idea from there, see how it becomes relevant in the modern world, how it can be really applied in terms of the working of different stakeholders. And you have to present it not as should, but as is. Let me explain this. What is this should and is? These ideas are, whatever these ideas are in abstract form. And these abstractions have to be made practical. Jaise, for example, like look at Mr. Ishfaq, just a minute. Look at this, for example. I stated that servant leadership idea. Now, statement is Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Evcha Nirmamo Nirhankara Samadukh Sukh Kshami Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridha Nishchayah Mai Arpit Manobuddhiryo Mad Bhakta Same Priya. Now, this is a verse. What does the verse say? It says Adveshta, free from malice. Sarva Bhutanam, among everything, with no malice, without anything. Friendly, Karuna. Nirmamo. Nirmamo means one who has no attachment to possession, no ego, who is the same in Sukh and Dukh, who has the quality of forgiveness. Now, this is a statement that has been given. All right. Now, if you look at this, this is very similar to how a leader should be. Now, thing is that as we leader, the word leader is what? We all are leaders. And you must have heard one statement somewhere. Definitely you must have heard as a student of management and commerce. Each one of us is a leader. Why we are leader? Because we are at least leader of our own lives. We lead our lives. So we are leader of our own lives. So what we should be like, and what we should be like at the workplace. Can I be like this at workplace? How can, now I'm answering your question, Mr. Ishfaq Ahmed. Very good question you have asked. How to approach while exploring ancient Indian texts? You approach it like this. How can it be done? How it can be accomplished at the workplace? Can I build a training program? Do people like this exist? If they exist, what are the outcomes? What is the impact on the group performance, on individual performance, on company's performance? Conduct a research. That is, this very idea has to be presented in proper research format, not as a mere abstraction. I hope I am able to communicate this point. So if that is done, if you can accomplish this, then you will be able to approach the ancient Indian text in the right perspective, in the manner it should be. Then Hemant Gawade, sir, if the leaders follow autocratic style of leadership, how subordinates should cope up with that? You see, this is not a question that I'm actually addressing. How should you cope with that? You can only control your behavior. You cannot control his behavior. Here it is a different question altogether, Mr. Hemant Gawade. You can talk to me separately. I will answer. Sir, good knowledgeable speech. Sir, the servant leaders isn't an Indian concept. It is an Indian concept, no doubt. It is. But have Indians presented it? Indians have not presented it. It has come from Green. And when we write the research papers, we write his name first. We do not write the name of Vivekananda in there. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Uma Prabha. Thanks, Dr. Rajni, for the compliment. Dr. Franklin Selvi, sir, how do we strike a balance between management approach of profit making as against ethics, especially in a leadership position? You see, if you are an employee and in a leadership position, then you do not have control over this. For example, if you, I'm sure, Dr. Franklin Selby, you are working in an educational institution. If you are, say, for example, a dean, or you are, say, for example, the principal, if you are, for example, say, head of the department, and you have to recruit people, and your management says that we want to make profit out of this educational endeavor, maximum profit possible. So what will you do? You have no option but to hire the people at the lowest possible cost, lowest possible salary by negotiating as much as you could. Okay? So now here again, now you can strike the balance between between ethics and your leadership position if your top management permits it. And if you are the top management, well, it is up to you to decide that. That is how you'll have to do it. Yes, thank you, Paridhi Saini. Dr. A. Arulachalan, thanks a lot. Shanti Fernandez, thank you, sir, for such an informative, thought-provoking session. Could you be able to guide me to get some books or resources on ancient Indian transformational leadership? Oh, yeah. There is no book per se on transformational leadership, but there is one Professor Chatterjee who has written a book, Timeless Leadership. You will get a lot of ideas from that book about the leadership, but you will have to, he has written it in his own perspective, in his own manner, but you can get a lot of ideas for building up something new. So there is a book by Professor Chatterjee. Title of the book is Timeless Leadership. Yes, thank you, Dr. Paresh Bora, Dr. Vinod, Dr. Hemant. Yes, Ishfaq Ahmed Thakur, thank you very much. Dr. Lakshmi, Rapi Rama Lakshmi, thank you very much. Okay, Seema ma'am, Vijay B, Sitaram, Dr. Franklin Selvi, thank you so much. Right, thank you very much for this. I think most of the words are in the form of thank you. So thank you all. There are no more questions. I think that's it.
So there is one question from Dr. V. Anandavalli.
Yeah.
They write that which style of leadership is best suitable for a teacher?
For a teacher, it is the servant leadership style that is the best. You are in a role where you touch the lives very deeply. We teachers touch the lives of our students very deeply. So the aspirations, goals, and objectives of our students are very important for us, should be for us. And whatever best we can do for them, we should try to do. Okay? So you have to be full of forgiveness. You have to be full of compassion. You have to be without malice, as I stated, as it is written in the Bhagavad Gita. So servant leadership style is the best style. That is how you can do, and that will automatically bring about the change. Yes. Anything else? Dr. Franklin has raised the hand. Does she want to come online? Dr. Franklin Selvi has raised the hand. Does she want to come online?
Sir, if you allow, we can unmute her.
Yeah, please unmute her.
But she's just written that it is she's raised her hand by mistake. So I think she might not be able to.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. The questions are over.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Navya Jain. Yes. Yeah. All right. Both are different. Leadership and management, both are different. Dr. Venkateshwar Lu Kaseti says, Sir, leadership and management both are different. Is it right, sir? Yes, of course. They are different. I agree with you entirely. Yes. Okay.
Okay, sir. So this is the, I think all the queries has been answered. So now I would like to present the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing team for this particular session of the 2-week refresher course. First of all, I would like to extend my warm regards and thanks to Dr. Shreyas Sharma, sir, Dean, Academic Indian School of Business Finance, University of London, for such an insightful session, sir. You make us understand what is the connection between the Indian ethos and the management aspect. And last but not least, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the participants for their active participation. I hope you all have enjoyed the session. Thank you, everyone, once again. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
मैम मैं बंद कर दूं YouTube लाइव?
Yes, sir.